Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 7th round of the 1958 Formula One World Championship. We are back where it all began, Silverstone, the birthplace of Formula One. And what a season it has been so far. For the first time in the history of the sport, no one can confidently predict who will win today. There's no single dominant force. Ferrari and Van Wall stand almost neck and neck in the championship, trading victories and heartbreaks race after race. But here at Silverstone, the story changes. This is not a pure horsepower circuit like Reims or Spa. This is a driver's track, a place where precision, bravery, and perfect rhythm make all the difference. And don't forget the awakening of BRM, showing flashes of real pace, or the innovative Coopers, rewriting the rulebook with their rear-engine revolution. Anything can happen today. You can feel the tension in the air, because for the first time ever, two Englishmen stand as the leading contenders for the World Championship crown. Mike Hawthorn, the blonde daredevil in his Ferrari, and Stirling Moss, the relentless fighter in his Van Wall. Around the track, the grandstands roar with divided loyalties. You're either a Hawthorn fan or a Moss fan, not both. Now, we all know Silverstone, the old airfield that once sent Spitfires into the skies during the Second World War. But what not everyone knows is that this legendary circuit has another kind of life running through it. Silverstone isn't just famous for racing, it's famous for its wildlife. Inside the Silverstone Museum, there's even an interactive exhibit dedicated to it. And the star of that show? The Silverstone hare. Yes, a real lightning-fast hare that has become almost as iconic as the circuit itself. It's been seen sprinting across the track at race meetings, sometimes even charging down the grid before the start or during the race. Only at Silverstone could you have a race between Ferraris, Van Walls, and a wild hare. And as you'll see later, this 1958 British Grand Prix was no exception. Ferrari arrived at Silverstone draped in grief. Just 2 weeks earlier, Luigi Musso had lost his life in France. Another tragedy in what had already become a dark chapter for the Scuderia. It was heartbreakingly familiar. Only a year before, they had mourned the deaths of Eugenio Castellotti and Alfonso de Portago. We all know that Formula One was the deadliest sport on Earth until the 1990s. But in the 1950s, the most dangerous place was inside a Ferrari. Not because the cars were fragile or poorly built, far from it. But what truly made Ferrari dangerous was the rivalry. Inside the team, the drivers weren't just racing their opponents. They were fighting each other for survival, each one desperate to earn the Commendatore's approval. For Silverstone, 3 cars were entered, all Ferrari 246s. The lineup: Mike Hawthorn, the championship contender; Peter Collins, the man on thin ice; and Wolfgang von Trips, the young German prodigy. Enzo Ferrari kept Collins only because of Hawthorn's loyalty. But even in the shadow of Musso's death, Collins' position was hanging by a thread. If he wanted to stay at Ferrari, there was only one way forward: go flat out or go home. Meanwhile, Van Wall arrived at their home Grand Prix with absolute confidence. And why wouldn't they? They didn't change a thing. Not a bolt, not a screw, not even a word in their game plan. Stirling Moss and Mike Hawthorn stood neck and neck in the championship. And Van Wall knew that here, at Silverstone, on home soil, the balance could finally tip in their favor. And make no mistake, this was their battlefield. Ferrari might rule the straights, but Silverstone wasn't built for horsepower alone. So here in England, in front of their roaring home crowd, Van Wall didn't just come to race, they came to win. But let's not forget, Van Wall aren't the only ones racing at home today, because this is also Cooper's Grand Prix. The small team from Surbiton has come a long way in just a few short years, from garage-built specials to full-blown Formula One contenders. And for their home race, they've decided to go all in. For the first time, Cooper enters 3 cars on the grid, hoping to squeeze every possible chance out of this British weekend. Jack Brabham, the hard-charging Australian with the mind of a mechanic and the bravery of a fighter pilot. Roy Salvadori, sharp, experienced, and always ready to pounce. this time armed with the team's most powerful engine yet, the new 2.2-litre Coventry Climax, a small but mighty step forward. And joining them, a new name to the top level of racing, Ian Burgess, a Cooper man through and through, who's been part of the team's journey in the junior categories since the early 50s. Today, he gets his first taste of Formula One. The machinery might still look modest compared to the big factory outfits, but make no mistake, these little rear-engine Coopers have already started to rewrite the rulebook. And joining the British forces at Silverstone, Team Lotus, Colin Chapman's ambitious outfit, arrives with 3 cars this weekend, each one a small step toward his dream of challenging the giants. Cliff Allison takes the wheel of the older Lotus 12, but fitted with the larger 2.2-litre Coventry Climax engine, a bit of extra muscle to make up for its age. Meanwhile, the team's new hope, the elegant Lotus 16, is entrusted to Graham Hill and to a new face in Formula One, Alan Stacey. Both are running with the smaller 2-litre engines, but Chapman's focus isn't only on power, it's on progress. And speaking of Alan Stacey, in the strange and fearless world of 1950s racing, his story stands out even among the brave. Just a few weeks ago, he raced for Lotus at Le Mans, but what most people don't realize is that Stacey was an amputee, driving with an artificial lower right leg after a motorcycle accident when he was just 17. Yet here he is, not only racing in Formula One, but helping to develop the very cars that will one day change the sport. From the front-engined Lotus 16 to the revolutionary Lotus 18. It says everything about the fearless spirit of the time, and about Colin Chapman's unshakable belief in his drivers. Truly, these were crazy times, and even crazier men who dared to race them. Meanwhile, BRM arrives at Silverstone as the only factory team running with just 2 cars. Their updated P25s have undergone yet another round of modifications, most notably a reworked oiling system. The oil tank has now been moved into the cockpit, with a new front-mounted oil cooler designed to keep the engine temperatures under control. Previously, the cars had a nasty habit of overheating the water system, so this was, at least on paper, a clever step forward. But let's be honest, putting the oil tank right next to the driver, by modern standards, it's utter madness. Then again, in the 1950s, that kind of danger was just part of the job. At the wheel, BRM keeps its classic pairing, American Harry Schell and Frenchman John Behra, 2 men with very different styles, but both determined to prove that BRM can finally deliver the results that years of frustration and engineering heartbreak have promised. And then, of course, we have the privateer teams, divided neatly into 2 factions. The first are the loyalists, those still clinging to the Maserati 250F, the old workhorse that once ruled the world. But now, well, it's showing its age. No real updates since 1957, no factory support, and not much hope either. Scuderia Centro Sud turns up with Carroll Shelby and Gerino Guerini, 2 brave men doing what they can with what's left of Maserati's glory days. Realistically, their chances of scoring a point or 2, let's just say, slim. The second faction brings something different. 2 Connaught Type B dart machines, entered by none other than Bernie Ecclestone himself. Yes, that Bernie Ecclestone, long before he ruled Formula One, he was just another ambitious team owner trying to make his cars go faster than they should. At the wheel are 2 locals, Jack Fairman and Ivor Bueb. Steady hands, solid drivers, and as a backup plan, Bernie even entered himself as a reserve driver. Because in the 1950s, if you owned the team, you were also the brake glass in case of emergency option.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the 11th RAC British Grand Prix here at Silverstone, the birthplace of modern Formula One. What a sight it is today. Ferraris, Van Walls, Coopers, BRMs and Lotuses lined up and ready to roar. These are not just racing cars. Oh no, these are the most advanced state-of-the-art machines on Earth. We're talking fuel-injected, disc brakes, magnesium wheels, things so futuristic there's no chance you'll find them in your own car. because right here, right now, this is the future of motor racing. And what a championship it has become. Ferrari and Vanwall neck and neck in the standings, trading blows across continents. But perhaps the most thrilling of all, the title fight is between two British lions. Sterling Moss, the racing thoroughbred from London, born with speed in his veins, from a family built on motors and petrol fumes, and Mike Hawthorne, the fearless lad from Exeter in South Yorkshire, driving the Scarlet Ferrari with the heart of a true Englishman.
After the disappointment of Reims, the Van Wall camp arrived at Silverstone with one clear mission: redemption. The French Grand Prix had left them frustrated, but this was home soil now, the land where green cars and Union Jacks ruled the grandstands. Silverstone was more than just another race. It was a chance to prove that British engineering could finally outpace the red might of Maranello. And leading the charge, as always, was Sterling Moss. Calm, confident, and razor-focused, Moss wasted no time in stamping his authority on the weekend. From the first practice session, he looked completely in control, the Van Wall gliding through Silverstone's fast corners with poise and purpose. By the end of the final qualifying session, there was no question. Moss had been the quickest man on track on both days. The crowd's favourite had delivered the pole, and the roar from the grandstands made it sound like a national victory in itself. But Moss wasn't the only British driver making headlines. The home team seemed to come alive on the smooth, sweeping curves of Silverstone. Harry Schell, in the ever-improving BRM, shocked everyone by placing second, just fractions of a second behind Moss. Roy Salvadori in the Cooper continued to impress, coaxing incredible pace from the little rear-engine machine to secure third, while Cliff Allison in the Lotus stunned the paddock with a superb fifth-place effort, proof that Colin Chapman's innovative designs were beginning to bear fruit. For Ferrari, though, this weekend felt like walking uphill. The 246 was still a beast on power, but Silverstone wasn't a track that rewarded brute force. It demanded balance, agility, and precision. And that's where the British cars shone. Mike Hawthorne pushed as hard as he could, but he simply couldn't extract the same dominance he enjoyed at Reims. Fourth place on the grid was the best he could manage. Peter Collins slotted into sixth, struggling with a car that never felt entirely settled, while Wolfgang von Trips found himself all the way down in 11th. The mood in the Ferrari garage was subdued. Still haunted by the loss of Luigi Musso just weeks earlier, the team felt the weight of both tragedy and pressure pressing down upon them. The small Connaught team, fielding Jack Fairman and Ivor Bjerb, found themselves painfully off the pace. Despite the advantage of familiarity with the track, their old Type B darts simply couldn't keep up. Both drivers were more than 12 seconds slower than Moss's blistering pole time, leaving them stranded on the back rows of the grid, 17th and 19th. For them, Silverstone wasn't a dream come true. It was a reminder of how quickly Formula One was evolving, and how cruelly it left the slower behind.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the starting grid. On pole position, no surprises here. Car number 7, Sterling Moss in the blazing green Van Wall. The master of speed does it again, clocking a phenomenal 1 minute 39.4 seconds. The crowd's favorite and clearly the man to beat. Just 4 tenths of a second behind. This one did raise a few eyebrows. Car number 20, Harry Schell in BRM. What a run. The American has absolutely run the neck of that machine. Second on the grid, a fantastic achievement for both man and motor. In third place, car number 10, Roy Salvadori in the Cooper. Just 6 tenths off Moss. The little rear-engine Mark continues to punch above its weight. Not bad for what most people still call that funny-looking thing with the engine in the wrong place. Fourth on the grid, car number 2, Mike Hawthorne in the Ferrari. 1 second behind Moss. Not ideal for the championship leader, but we all know Hawthorne loves a good scrap once the flag drops. Fifth place, and what a story this is. Car number 17, Cliff Allison in the old Lotus 12. Outdated, underpowered, and still managing to work wonders. Equal on time to Hawthorne. It's nothing short of magic from the young Brit. And rounding out the top 6, car number 1, Peter Collins in the second Ferrari. A solid effort from Collins. Just 1.2 seconds off the pole, and no doubt something special saved for race day. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. The tension is thick in the air at Silverstone. 75 laps lie ahead, covering a grueling 353 kilometers. That's 219 and a half miles of pure, unfiltered racing. Every driver knows this thing. Every lap. This is the 11th RAC British Grand Prix. The flag is up in front. And it's off. They're away.
As the flag drops, Stirling Moss launches like a bullet. No surprise there, he's one of the best starters in the business. But look at Peter Collins. Starting from 6th, the Ferrari driver reacts perfectly and slices through the field with incredible precision. Within moments, he's already up to 2nd, and he's not done yet. The crowd roars as the two British heroes go wheel to wheel, both giving absolutely everything in front of their home fans. Collins is relentless. He's right on Moss's tail, studying every move, every twitch of the van wall ahead. And then he goes for it. A daring move, pure instinct and courage, and he's through. Peter Collins takes the lead of the British Grand Prix, from 6th to 1st in less than a lap. What an incredible start from the Ferrari driver. For the next few laps, the order at the front remains unchanged. Peter Collins leads confidently, Moss is right behind him, and Hawthorne holds steady in 3rd. It seems the top drivers have settled into rhythm, each pacing themselves for what promises to be a long and demanding race. The gaps between the top 10 begin to stretch, as strategy and tyre management start to play their role. But there's one man clearly not in the mood for patience: Stuart Lewis Evans. The young Van Wall driver is flying in 7th place, pushing harder and harder each lap. He reels in Roy Salvadori's Cooper, closing the gap in no time. And there he goes. A clean, confident overtake puts him into 6th position. The home crowd loves every second of it. But just 2 laps later, Roy Salvadori finds himself under pressure again, this time from Wolfgang von Trips. The young German, clearly inspired by Lewis Evans' daring move ahead, decides it's his turn to attack. Salvadori drops to 8th, while von Trips climbs to 7th. A reminder that the Ferraris may have struggled in qualifying, but in the race, they are always a threat. But just ahead, another fierce battle unfolds, and this one is personal. Stuart Lewis Evans has caught up to Tony Brooks, his own teammate at Van Wall. No difference in machinery here. Same car, same power. So what decides this fight is pure driver skill. Lewis Evans shadows Brooks, studying every move, every braking point. Then, in one bold and flawless maneuver, he strikes, diving past Brooks after just a single lap of pressure. The young Brit is clearly out to prove something today, not just to his team, but to the entire Silverstone crowd watching their home heroes go wheel to wheel. 8 laps in, and we have our first retirement of the race. Jack Fairman's Connaught gives up the ghost, the ignition system failing completely. He coasts into the pits, engine silent, hopes gone. He was running last, yes, but it's still a bitter end. Every driver wants to see the checkered flag, and for Fairman, that dream ends far too soon. The first casualty of the 1958 British Grand Prix. From this point on, Harry Schell's race turns into a mechanical nightmare. His BRM begins to leak oil, and within just a few laps, he slips from 4th to 7th place. The problem quickly snowballs. Less oil means rising temperatures, and Schell is forced to ease off just to keep the engine alive. But slowing down only makes things worse for his position on track. One by one, cars fly past the struggling BRM, and by lap 15, Schell finds himself down in 9th. What started as a promising race is turning into a desperate fight for survival. But it's not just Harry Schell losing ground. Tony Brooks is also falling back through the field. Unlike Schell, though, there's nothing wrong with his car. No smoke, no oil leaks, no strange noises. He's simply off the pace today. Lap by lap, more drivers catch and overtake him. Schell, von Trips, Hill, and Brabham all make their way past, leaving Brooks down in 10th place. A disappointing showing for one of Van Wall's front runners, especially here at home, where expectations are sky high. Not like Peter Collins at the front, he's absolutely flying. The Ferrari looks perfectly balanced in his hands, and Collins drives with total confidence. Lap after lap, he pulls away from Moss, inch by inch, second by second. The gap grows steadily, and it's clear he's starting to stretch his legs. The home crowd roars as the British Ferrari driver begins to build a comfortable cushion at the front of the field. But behind Collins, the field slowly begins to crumble. Silverstone may not be the most punishing track, but let's not forget, this is the 1950s, when reliability was always hanging by a thread. Engines were fragile, gearboxes unpredictable, and luck was as important as speed. The next victim is Graham Hill. His Lotus 16, powered by the smaller 2-litre engine, simply can't take the strain. After just 17 laps, the engine gives up, forcing Hill to pull over and retire. Ironically, it's the same problem that ended his race in France. But at least there, the car survived nearly 275 kilometers. Here at Silverstone, it barely makes it past 80. One Lotus is out, and Chapman's mechanics are left scratching their heads again. The next unfortunate to join the retirements list is John Behrer. Out of nowhere, a hare darts across the track, right into the path of Behrer's BRM. The impact shatters part of the suspension, leaving the car wounded and undrivable. Behrer manages to limp back to the pits, but the damage is too severe to repair. There's nothing the mechanics can do. The Frenchman steps out furious and helpless. A hare has just ended his British Grand Prix. We've reached lap 19, and it seems like fate just flipped a switch. 3 cars bow out in quick succession, marking a real turning point in the race. First to go is John Behrer, his earlier run-in with that hare proving fatal for his BRM. Then comes Ivar Bueb in the second Connaught. The gearbox gives up, and with it, Bernie Ecclestone's hopes of seeing his cars reach the finish. The outdated machinery simply can't keep up anymore. And if that wasn't enough, the Lotus garage takes another blow. Alan Stacey in the newer Lotus 16 suffers the same overheating issues that plagued Graham Hill earlier. Steam, smoke, and silence. He's out. That leaves just one Lotus still circulating, the old faithful Lotus 12, with Cliff Allison bravely keeping the flag flying for Colin Chapman's team. But there's no miracle for Colin Chapman today. Lap 21, and the last remaining Lotus gives up the fight. And the cause? You guessed it. Engine overheating. All 3 Lotuses are now out of the British Grand Prix. The team is absolutely devastated. They pushed, they experimented, they dreamed. But none of their cars made it to half distance. These Coventry Climax engines are proving to be all or nothing. They can win you a Grand Prix, as they did for Trintignant and Moss earlier in the year, or they can die after just a handful of laps. Reliability, much like safety in the 1950s, simply wasn't in the Formula One dictionary. Meanwhile, Roy Salvadori is on the charge in his Coventry Climax-powered Cooper. Lap after lap, he shadows Lewis Evans, studying every move, every braking point, waiting for the perfect opening. The Cooper may be lighter, nimbler, and in Salvadori's hands, absolutely flying. And finally, on lap 25, the moment arrives. He dives past the van wall and snatches 4th place. A superb move by Salvadori, proving once again that the little rear-engine Cooper is no longer the underdog. It's the future. Meanwhile at the front, Stirling Moss is doing everything he can to reel in Peter Collins. The Ferrari looks untouchable on this circuit, but Moss is never one to give up easily. Lap after lap, he pushes harder, braking later, cornering faster, squeezing every ounce of power out of his van wall. But there's a fine line between brilliance and disaster. The van wall's engine, already running on the edge, finally gives way under the strain. A puff of white smoke, then flames, and that's it. Moss is out of the race on lap 26. A heartbreaking moment for the home crowd, and a huge blow in his championship fight. Meanwhile, Mike Hawthorne quietly benefits from his rival's misfortune, moving up to 2nd place behind his teammate Collins. For the next 18 laps, the race settles into a calm rhythm. almost eerie after all the early chaos. No overtakes, no retirements, just the steady roar of engines circling Silverstone. But one man isn't calm at all. Wolfgang von Trips. Watching two Ferraris lead up front while he's stuck down in sixth must be pure torture. Ahead of him is Jack Brabham's tiny Cooper, smaller, lighter, and with far less power. How could this little machine hold off a Ferrari for so long? Of course, von Trips couldn't know what Cooper's concept would mean for the future of Formula One, the birth of the rear-engined revolution. But for now, in 1958, it's just an annoying little car that refuses to move aside. The engine starts to lose its edge. Von Trips must be absolutely fuming inside his helmet. The Cooper might look modest compared to the mighty Ferrari, but right now, it's showing the world that clever engineering can outsmart raw horsepower. For the next 12 laps, von Trips throws everything he has at Brabham's Cooper. Every straight brings him hope, but every corner takes it all away again. Brabham, calm and composed, dances through the turns, while the German can only watch the little car pull away again and again. It becomes a cruel pattern. Attack, close in, lose it. Until suddenly, on lap 60, the Ferrari disappears from Brabham's mirrors entirely. Silence. No red flash behind him anymore. Moments later, word comes through. The Ferrari's mighty 143 V6 has finally cried enough. Too many laps driven flat out. Too much heat. Too much strain. The engine gives up in a puff of smoke. Von Trips is out. A victim not of his courage, but of the relentless limits of 1950s machinery. So, dear viewers, Peter Collins is in complete control from the very first lap. Lap after lap, he keeps his Ferrari perfectly balanced, never putting a wheel wrong, and as he completes the final lap, he crosses the finish line to a huge ovation from the British crowd. He finally manages another victory, his first since that sensational 1956 season. And with it, he proves once again to Enzo Ferrari that he's not just a flash of brilliance, but a true cornerstone of the Scuderia. It's also quite an interesting move from Ferrari today. No team orders, no signals to let Mike Hawthorn through to strengthen his title lead. Perhaps the old man, Enzo, wanted to see what Collins can really do when left to his own race. And speaking of Mike Hawthorn, he crosses the line in second place, collecting 6 valuable points for the championship, and an extra point for setting the fastest lap of the race. Every single one of those will count in his tight battle with Sterling Moss. Third across the line is Roy Salvadori in the Cooper. A fantastic performance from the British driver, who still manages to hold off Lewis Evans in the final laps. And with that, Salvadori celebrates his first ever Formula One podium. As for 5th place, that goes to Harry Schell in the BRM. After a chaotic race full of oil leaks and overheating problems, the American still brings the car home in the points. And now, dear viewers, let's take a look at the championship picture, because after today, it's starting to take real shape. Mike Hawthorn is now a serious contender for the world title. With 30 points to his name, he's opened up a healthy gap over Sterling Moss, who remains stuck on 23 after yet another retirement. That's his third mechanical failure of the season, and you can almost feel Moss's frustration. He's fast, no doubt, but without reliability, even the greatest speed can't win you a championship. Meanwhile, Peter Collins has made a spectacular leap up the standings, jumping from 11th all the way to 3rd, overtaking the late Luigi Musso in the process. A bittersweet shift in the rankings, as Musso's name still lingers in the hearts of many. So, as we leave Silverstone, the season begins to take its true form. Every race from now on matters. Every point counts. The battle for the 1958 World Championship is well and truly on. Meanwhile, over in the Constructors' Championship, the picture looks, well, almost exactly the same, except for the numbers. Ferrari still leads the way, their consistency and horsepower keeping them firmly on top. Van Wall sits second, still within striking distance, but once again, they leave their home race wondering what could have been. As for Cooper, they're fighting hard, but the gap to the Italians is growing wider with every round. The little British team is punching above its weight, yet Ferrari's relentless pace keeps them just out of reach. And then there's Lotus. Oh, poor Lotus. After a truly disastrous weekend at Silverstone, with all three cars failing to finish, they walk away with absolutely nothing. No points, no glory. Just a garage full of broken engines and shattered optimism. Sometimes in Formula One, progress just means surviving the weekend, and Lotus didn't even manage that. So, that's it. The 1958 British Grand Prix has given us its heroes and heartbreaks. Some teams rise, some fall, but one thing is certain, this championship is far from over. And the next chapter, oh, it's a big one. We're heading to the green hell itself, the Nürburgring, for the 1958 German Grand Prix, a circuit so wild, so unforgiving, that even the bravest drivers hold their breath before the start. So, dear viewers, if you enjoyed this deep dive into Formula One history, give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories from the golden age of racing. Get ready, because next time, we're going to Germany.